Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this Blitz chess postmortem of my Blitz game number 358. My opponent kicked off with d4, and I played knight f6 with the intention of getting into a Grunfeld if allowed, but my opponent plays knight f3. So I played g6 here, playable move, and my opponent goes knight c3, a bit of an unusual move. And I should have stopped to think right here, I guess. But the point of knight c3 is it supports this pawn move to e4, which has been stopped by my knight move. So e4 is now a possibility. So if I want to play a Grunfeld-like system, I need to play the move d5 right here. In fact, you'll see that's the top choice of the chess engine. So I was ignoring this possibility and just going bishop g7. And after e4, we've transposed. You'll see actually this is the number of games has gone up. This is just a mainline position of the Pirc defense. And I played d6, which is the main move here. But I haven't realized that I'm in a Pirc defense. I don't play this normally. And so I was still thinking along the lines of King's Indian or something like that. But it's not quite the same. Castles is a possibility here, yeah. But it looks like d5 is not so good in this position. You know, the chess engine thinks I could still play d5. The problem with d5 is that it gives white the option of pushing on here. Yeah, it looks like a pretty good advantage for white with just taking. Okay, anyway, I play d6, just trying to slow down the push of the pawn to e5. It goes bishop e2, and a castle, and he castles. And right here I play the first really strange move. So c6 is a normal way to continue in the Pirc, just setting up a solid but small center, controlling these squares and preparing for later pushes of the d-pawn or the e-pawn, depending on how things unfold. What other ideas are there? There's also the idea of bishop to g4, pinning this knight. Might be a good idea as a preparation move for playing e5. I went ahead and played e5 right away, which okay, I guess it's playable. You know, I was thinking in the King's Indian, a lot of times you can play e5 before the pawn is fully supported because you have these tactical tricks with the discovered attack along this diagonal. But here I guess it doesn't gain a whole lot. Queen takes, rook takes. I was thinking I should at least equalize here. He can play bishop g5. This is probably a good idea for white. Pinning my knight, not even bothering to take the pawn, at least not right away, but pinning my knight so I don't have this idea of taking here. But he took immediately. And okay, we're out of the opening book now. But I took on e4. That's the only way to get my material back. I was wondering if I could delay it for a move, but it looks like playing rook e1, but he can just defend his knight, and then I'm not getting my pawn back. So I have to take right away. Plays f4 to defend his knight, and this is interesting. So it doesn't like f4. The best way for white to continue is to continue exchanging. Knight takes e4, bishop takes e5, and c3 to blunt the bishop. Okay, so after f4 I actually have a slight advantage here. With knight takes c3, yeah, I play this, and he gets doubled pawns, but he has the bishop pair, so it's not entirely one-sided, but yeah, slight edge for black at this point. And that was the mistake, playing that move f4 instead of just trading at that point. Okay, the game continues though. I tried to develop my pieces to what seemed like natural squares. Yeah, bishop takes c3. He left his pawn hanging here. I could have just grabbed that. I didn't notice that. But I was interested in getting my pieces developed, and I was a little bit worried about pressure on b7 here. So I was happy to be able to get this move in b6, and I've still got my advantage. I haven't given it away. I just didn't have the best. It wasn't the best play. c4, knight f6. So I'm getting my pieces out. He's kicking my knights around with my rooks around with his bishops. Bishop b2. And now I decide to trade and grab a pawn. So I have managed to win a pawn here, and I was thinking he just starts trading off, which is probably a mistake. I think White rather should keep the material on. He's now got a situation where he's down a pawn, but he has the bishop pair, and with an open board, there's probably some compensation. But he just is intent on trading pieces off, so we go down this path, and yeah, the engine thinks I'm quite doing quite well here. But there are dangers lurking in this position, and my next move doesn't address them. So looks like knight e4 or knight e8 is the way to play. Just trying to keep. Well, first of all, it's these moves all come with tempo. When the knight moves, he's got to do something about his bishop, and trading appears to be the main idea. Let's see, let's try knight e4 as an example. And he doesn't have to trade. He could move his bishop away, or he's counterattacking my knight. How about if he just moves his bishop off this diagonal, tries to keep my, and I have bishop d4 check. Okay, and I get a lot of activity here. It looks like I'm doing really good. Interesting. So that's the way to play it. I played king f8, and suddenly my advantage is not nearly so great. And you'll see his bishops get quite active in a little bit. So I should probably be interested in continuing to trade and eliminate at least one of his bishops. So he goes bishop e5. And I went c6. I didn't want him to take my pawn. And now bishop a4. So there was something better than c6. Knight e8. Haha. Yeah, knight e8. I should have thought of this one. Knight e8 defends the pawn on c7, and also the bishop, although the bishop is defended by the king, incidentally. So this probably will lead to a trade. The bishop has nowhere to go to avoid the trade. King f2 and bishop takes e5, yeah. And then I would be clearly winning. So my careless move was really this c6 move. And now it's about even, and probably the game should end in a draw from this point. So he gets active with his bishop, and it seems like I can't really hold on to everything. I play knight e4, exchanges, and after the exchange, he grabs a pawn, and I play, instead of knight c3, okay, knight c3 going after this pawn. I guess I can chase this pawn around. Let's take a look at this idea. Knight c3, pawn goes to a3. Then where am I going from there? Knight e2 check. Ah, that's the trick. Knight c3 followed by knight e2 check gets a pawn back, and I keep my edge. So it's an interesting thing to note about the endgames, particularly if you've got a knight. But even without the knight, there's always a lot of tactics in the endgames, and you have to stay sharp. So for tactical reasons, I'm still doing okay in this position. But I need to play the right move. I need to play knight c3 here. You know, it makes some sense that I should still be slightly better, even though the material's even. He has a pair of weak pawns, and even this pawn you can see is a weakness because the idea of the knight c3 to e2 fork. Okay, I played knight d6, and now we really are even. And we play a few moves, and now we're just doing a lot of maneuvering here. I was trying to get my pawns onto dark squares so his bishop couldn't attack them, and I've succeeded here. But really this position is a dead draw. I have no way of penetrating with my king, and he can just sit here with his king and just stop me from making any progress. But white decides to try and play for a win at this point and starts pushing ahead. So this is interesting play. I get a check in here, and then I defend my knight. White's actually winning here with a4, yeah, hitting my knight. This was getting a little awkward, so I pushed that too hard. Let's back up and see where my mistake was. I need to go knight a3 check. This would just... I thought he would attack my knight here and get my knight off sides. King here, and the knight goes to b1. King here. Knight goes to d2. King here. Knight goes back to b1. So it looks like, yeah, my knight is trapped, but it's just a draw. So a draw is all I can hope for here. So in defending my knight and trying to avoid that, I end up in a worse position, and white is really in a position to win here. Let's see where white goes wrong. Takes, takes. King there. Yeah, that's a mistake. He should just be moving his bishop out of the way and then bringing his king in here to attack my pawns. My pieces are off sides, And if he's quick enough, it turns into a race. It's all about whether I can grab this pawn and queen my pawn before he can grab my pawn and queen his. And his are closer at this particular point. So with the right timing, okay, the precise move given by the engine is bishop to g2. Yeah, exactly to there. And then knight to c6. And now king to d5. Yeah, the king starts marching in and I can't really stop it. Knight to e5. I guess if I try knight here, the king can just come for the knight. So knight to e5, and he's winning from this point. Okay, so he played some inaccurate moves here. King b4. I get in this check. He goes to the side. And now this knight move was not accurate. I need to be worrying about how his king is going to penetrate once again. So the right move here is knight c6. Hey, I didn't want to allow this trade. Once again, knight c6, bishop takes, king takes. It's his move, and with that, I'll have the opposition, but I won't be able to penetrate. He's got enough control. So just to show this, bishop takes, king takes. I get the opposition. He has to move, but I can't break through. His pawn is guarding that square. His king is guarding these squares. So all I can do is go to the side, and he goes to the side, and the game would end in a draw. That's a logical result of this game. Okay, so I keep playing, but unfortunately these moves are losing, the moves that I keep playing. And he went to bishop to e6. Not the best way to play it. Once again, I think the idea is to retreat the bishop to f3, it says, f3 or g2, and then bring the king in. So he went bishop e6, I went knight e7, and he moved his bishop here. So he got his bishop in a position to defend his pawn. And now he's ready to bring his king in. I go after the bishop with king c7. Goes bishop e8. And now king to b6. I couldn't think of anything else. His king could probably just walk right in now. He goes bishop b5. Still approved. I go king c7. He goes king c5. I go knight c8. He goes king d5. I go knight d6. And he goes king e6. Okay, so just with that one move, he's thrown away his win. So he's outplayed me here. In trying to avoid the draw, I managed to get into a loss. He's made a lot of progress, and now he can just win. But he has to be careful about my counterattacking ideas. And my idea is to take the bishop, which will free up my pawn, and queen it. And if I can do that quicker than he can take these pawns and queen his pawn, then it's a win for me. And that's, in fact, the case. So he needs to move his bishop here. Where can the bishop go? The bishop could go to a6 is the top choice. It could also go to f1, and just dropping back to f1. a6 is here, or f1 is back there. It doesn't really matter. And now I'm sort of stuck. I'll try and keep his king out. Bishop to d3. He has to do some maneuvering with the bishop, and forces my king to the side. And now his king can penetrate. Let's see, if I go the other way, or if I move the knight, knight to f7, and bishop b5 check, yeah, he gets back here, king e7 trying to keep his king out, and then his king can penetrate. Where does his king go? King to c5, this way. Yeah, it's very tricky still, but he's going to get over here and gobble up my pawn and win that way. So he's going to penetrate on one side or the other. He's just got too advanced a position. So it's one hasty move here. So that's the thing to think about in the endgames. You have to make progress slowly. That's a common truism in the endgame. And he can make progress here, but he can't rush ahead too quickly. So king e6 is the losing move. And now I spotted this opportunity. I grabbed the bishop. He takes. And now it's just a race. And of course, you can calculate this race. It's not too hard. I've got 1, 2, 3 steps, and he's got to take the pawn, he's got to get out of the way, and then he's got 3 steps. So I'm a couple steps ahead. King g7 was a bit of an unfortunate choice, because when I get a queen, I pin the pawn. So one last try for black here. to move his king out of the way for white. He could just go here. Yeah, it looks like it's all losing. It doesn't matter. Or even on this side, say. Just to give it the most opportunity to try and queen. He gets one step away from queening, but I can get closer with checks, and I can stop the pawn from queening. So anyway, that's how it would have ended in any case. But he went to this square G7 here. So when I queen, his pawn is pinned. When he steps away, I grab the pawn. And that's how the game ended. He resigned at this point. So pretty interesting, I thought, instructive endgame. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and see you again soon. Bye.